This is a love letter to my son, Daniel. It was August 1996, and I was getting ready to load my sons into the car for 2 weeks at a summer camp, a Presbyterian Bible camp in Ligonier, Pennsylvania. Daniel, who was 8 years old, did not want to go. Please, Mom, don't make me go. I don't want to go to camp. I said, don't worry, you'll have your big brother with you for company. What I couldn't say to him was, I'm tired of parenting alone since your father died, and I need a break from parenting. Reluctantly, Daniel got into the car with his Game Boy as we drove west toward Pittsburgh. 2 weeks later, I drove back to Ligonier to pick my sons up, and I came to the bottom of a driveway that led up to the camp, and it was framed by large evergreen trees. And there at the top stood Daniel. He had been obviously looking for my car, and he stood there with a little cap, a tan canvas cap perched upon his thick dark hair. His childlike legs were in white socks and sneakers, and he had a very expectant look on his face. And I slowed the car down, and he opened the door and barreled into the front seat and said, Mom, I want to go home. And I said, okay. And I looked at him, and he had one of those little red, white, and blue bracelets. I guess it was the result of the obligatory arts and crafts camp. And he was wearing this little red, white, and blue bracelet, and it just kind of tore at my heart. And 14 years later, I pulled the car up to another curbside. And Daniel stood there, and behind him was framed the monolith of quote-unquote higher education. And Daniel stood there wearing sunglasses, a red and white University of Arizona t-shirt, and I thought, wow, he could be a movie star, he's so handsome. Of course, I'm his mom, so I'm biased. And he got into the car, and he said, take me home, Mom. Because in 2 weeks, we would be going to the McHale Center, where he would receive his diploma from the dean of the business college. And he had dropped his manly demeanor that he had now, and he said he was terrified. And terrified was a word I had used a lot in the house. After his father died, I was terrified. And he was terrified to leave the cocoon of college life and start looking for a job and entering the real world. And I looked at him, and I drove him home. This time his home was an adobe house with hedgehog cactus in the front and a swamp cooler on the roof in Tucson, Arizona, where he was living. And I thought back 14 years ago to that day in Ligonier, Pennsylvania. And I looked at him and I thought, you know, you haven't really changed. It's still the same face, it's still the same boy. Nothing has really changed, except everything has changed. Thank you.